totally unrelated to Zotero. I'm going to talk about Zotero for probably half an hour-ish. And then if you have any questions afterwards about it or about anything else as you're sort of working on getting started with the semester and things like that, I'm happy to stick around for a while afterwards. So that's the game plan for the day. Feel free to put questions in the chat. I cannot see the chat at the moment, it looks like, but I'm happy to answer questions in the chat at the end, or you can absolutely unmute and interrupt me while I'm going. So, all right, so Zotero. Things we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the core Zotero functions, so the basic things that it does, both the desktop and the web version. We're going to talk about building a reference collection in Zotero from library databases, so how you get stuff into Zotero. And then using Zotero to create a bibliography and format your citations in Microsoft Word and Google Docs. And lastly, I'm going to discuss collaborating with Zotero. So throughout my slides, here are my dogs. The big one in this picture is Cashew. She is 4. And the little one is Fig. And in this picture, she was probably 4 months old is my guess. She is my COVID puppy. So for the last 4 years, I've been doing slides where I have Cashew during her lifespan from puppy to adult. So now we have an update for fall 2021 where it's Cashew and Fig. So here's the desktop and website for Zotero. So the desktop, this is just for a visual reference. You don't need to read any of this, but the basic layout, if you haven't seen it before, is on the left-hand side, you have sort of your big folders. So I have the whole library is at the top, and then as you go down, there are folders that I have created, and some of them have drop-down arrows. Those folders have subfolders. Below that, there are group libraries, so everything that I have shared with other people. And then in the middle, these are the actual citations. So I've highlighted one of them. That's the one I'm looking at. But this is just like a big list of everything. And then on the right-hand side, this citation that I've highlighted, it's displaying all the information about that citation that Zotero has. So we've got things like the title and the authors and the abstract and all that kind of information. All of this information also is editable. So if you notice that there's a typo, or for some reason the author's names weren't captured correctly or something like that, you can type right in here and it will update and save automatically. A couple things on the desktop interface to highlight. So all the way on the left, we have create a new collection under my library. So those are the top groups. And then the littler groups, the folders, is right next to that. And then in the middle here, this is ways you can get references into Zotero. So this first one is adding a reference to Zotero manually. So if you wanted to type things in, and it gives you a whole bunch of different options for, you know, is your reference a video? Is it a journal article? Is it a newspaper article? And it changes the information it asks you for when you change what type of reference you want. So you can always input something manually if you can't get it in there in another way. This next one is import reference by what's called a unique identifier. So if it's a book, it's the ISBN number. Articles, you can do a DOI. Most PDFs have DOIs or digital object identifiers now. PMIDs is a PubMed ID. So if you're getting an article from PubMed, they all have unique IDs. and you can just copy and paste that ID right in here. And it will pull all the reference information for you. So you can also, with this little paper clip, just like an attachment for a file, import PDFs and stuff right there, and it will do its best to sort of scrape all the what's called metadata. So all the title and reference and abstract information, Zotero will try and pull that from the PDF. This is the web interface. You can see that it looks super close to the desktop interface. It's a little bit more white, but on the left-hand side, you've got all of those folders. In the middle, here are all my references. And then on the right, we've got the details about the reference. A couple things, though, that are different about the web interface. So you are required to have a login for Zotero.org in order to create shared groups. So if you want to collaborate with people, you have to be able to log into the web interface. That's also how you're going to sync your library across multiple devices. So if you wanted to use this, access your library on different computers, you have a computer at school and one at home, or however you want to do it. We have public computers in the library. So if you wanted to access it at the library, you would want to sync your Zotero desktop with the web, and then it's all up to date. So within the website, you can create groups for collaboration, create formatted citations so that you can copy and paste into bibliographies in applications that don't have a Zotero plugin. So if you're making a PowerPoint and you want everything to be formatted in APA for your last slide to be a reference slide, you can do that through the web interface and just copy and paste it into the last slide. And there you go. It also serves as a backup copy for your citation library for the desktop. So it's nice to have that sort of insurance. All right, so adding references. There are 3 different ways. I'm going to talk first about the Zotero connector. You can export from library databases, or you can manually add references. You can just type them right in there. The Zotero connector, so the first way to use it is when you download Zotero, you get this extra little button in your web browser of choice. So mine is in Google Chrome. And depending on the web page you are on, the icon changes. So you will either see a folder icon or a paper icon, depending on what you are looking at. If you hover over it, it will say Zotero. So if you don't remember, what's that folder thing, it will say Zotero if you hover over it, but it does change sort of what the icon is. Same thing in EBSCOhost. So at the very, very top up here, there's a little folder icon. So if you're on a web or a EBSCOhost page, you've got all of these citations or references to look through, and you click that little folder icon, you will get this pop-up window. So this pop-up window says the first 10 references that are displayed on your EBSCOhost search, and you can check them off. So you can say select all, take all of them and plug them into Zotero, or I only want, the first 2 or what have you. And this looks the same in all EBSCOhost databases. So OneSearch, PsycInfo, SociIndex, it all functions the same. And then you click OK, and it puts them into Zotero for you. And this is what it looks like. All right. Any questions?
Hey, Gail, this is Maura Tenner.
Yeah.
I do not see the little folder or paper in my web browser.
Did you download Zotero onto your desktop yet?
I'm not sure what you mean. I have the application.
Okay, so you have it you have the application on your computer.
Yeah.
It should automatically download into your web browser. It should ask you which one you want it to go into.
Is that like a new feature that maybe at the time that I downloaded it, it didn't do that?
It shouldn't be. No, the Zotero connector has been around for many years.
Okay, well, I don't want to take up time for my individual issues, but maybe we can talk later.
Yeah, yeah. Let me Google it and see if there are any sort of like quirks going on with that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions at the moment?
Hi, Gail, this is Nikki. Hi, could you go back to the slide of web interface? I have a question on one of the points.
Yeah.
Sorry about, yes.
No problem.
A slide further from this. Yeah, so I didn't understand the second point. So create formatted citations to copy and paste into bibliographies and applications.
Yep. So in a little bit, we're going to talk about how Zotero should also download a plugin into Microsoft Word or Google. It's already in Google Docs. But there are, you might want to put references into something like a PowerPoint slide or Excel or something like that. So when you're in the web interface, there is an option to create bibliography, and you can just copy and paste the text. And then, so you copy the text and then paste it into whatever you want. So it could be a PowerPoint slide, or it could be, Google Drive or something like that, an email. So that is also a feature within the desktop and the web interface. And I can show that if that is helpful.
Gotcha, thank you. So if I have an application in my desktop, I can do that too, that's what you're saying?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Forgot I added in all these oops, there we go. Do a little bit more. So exporting from databases, you can copy the unique identifiers. You can save references as an RIS file, which I will demo in OneSearch. Or you can use the Zotero connector. So there are a whole bunch of different ways you can get stuff into Zotero from whatever database you're using. Any other questions at the moment? I knew there was a question slide coming up. All right, more dogs. Here, Cashew and Fig cuddling again. So in OneSearch, so I'm gonna have to share a different screen. Just give me 1 second to just switch which screen I'm sharing. Here we go. All right, so, sorry, it's taking its time. There we go. Okay, so we've got OneSearch, and I'm just gonna go right to advanced search. So long as it loads. There we go. All right, so let's do disability or disabled and employment. Okay, I'm going to hit search. I mean, I can keep showing pictures of my dogs, but there we go. All right, so a couple different things. Here we've got the folder. So if I click on that, it brings up all of these, all the titles. So I can export from here by clicking OK. Or I can, say you want to read through the abstracts before you decide if you want to put a reference into your Zotero account. So I'm going to click on this one. Interesting. So if I wanted to save a bunch of articles and then export them all at the same time into Zotero, I would add to folder over here. If I wanted to just take this one, you can click export. And eventually, there we go. So this top one says direct export in RIS format. And it says Zotero at the end here, but this is going to be the default for any time you click export. So if you click save here, it will automatically export it, just this article, right into Zotero. But say I want a bunch of them, add them to the folder. Let me go back to the results list. And if you add something to the folder, it turns this little blue icon from blue to yellow. So if it's in the folder, it is yellow. So let's say I also want this one, this one, this one. Then I'm going to scroll back up, click on the folder. The folder, what you put in the folder lasts as long as you are currently using OneSearch or actively using OneSearch. It will save everything that you put in the folder unless you use this sign in, which is not connected to your UMID. It's just connected to EBSCOhost. But if you sign in and put things in your folder, they will just stay in your folder for as long as you leave them there. So that's one option. I'm going to say select all and export. So it's the same export thing here. And again, the top one is direct export in RIS format. I'm going to say save. And all right, so let me switch so that you can see the whole desktop so you can see Zotero at the same time. Okay, so if I say save file, okay, and it should have put them right in Zotero. But it's not looking. Okay. All right, actually, let's do open with shoes. All right, Zotero. Okay. 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 And there they are. So that is one other option for getting stuff into Zotero. If you want to do it through importing a file. Any questions about that process?
Hi, Gil. I have a question.
Yeah.
So I got that how we're exporting it, but I'm not clear that how it will go to the folder or the library that I've created for a particular project,
Yep,
for the systematic review.
yep.
So how do I know these files are going into that particular library?
So there are a couple things you can do. Usually what I do is if I'm working on a project and I know I want things in a specific folder, I will highlight that folder sort of as I'm going. And then if you're, or I'll highlight that folder, say I want stuff in this folder. If I use the Zotero connector, that little icon in your web browser, it will automatically put stuff into the folder that you have highlighted. If you import it, put it in its own folder, this delivery one. So I could highlight it and then move it. So now it bumped it into the comps folder. You can also Control A, select, and then move them and dump them in the folder that you would like them to be in.
Okay, okay, this makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right. So here they are again, enjoying their bed in the woods. So creating bibliographies. So in Microsoft Word, when you download it, it should download this extra little tab into your Microsoft Word that says Zotero. And then when you click on that, this is what it looks like. So you've got add, edit citations, add, edit bibliography, and then a couple other things that I actually truly almost never touch. So when you are inserting a citation, say you're typing up your paper, you click add edit citation, it will bring up this pop-up window that links to your Zotero account and has all of these citations in it. You can then search by whatever you want. So it could be the author last name, it could be part of the title, publication year, whatever you want. It also asks you when it does this pop up what citation style you would like to use. The default is APA, but you can change that. You can also change it later. You don't have to stick with the one that you originally select. All right. So then say you put all of your citations in your paper and you want to make the bibliography, you can do that in two different ways. So you can do it from the in-text citations. So if you click that add edit bibliography button in Word, Zotero will then create a bibliography from the in-text citations you have already put in. And it will put the bibliography in wherever your cursor is. That's easy to undo if you accidentally stick it somewhere in the middle of the paper or something like that. But just to note that it will do it wherever your cursor is located. If you wanted to insert a standalone bibliography, so not from in-text citations, you can click the same button, that add edit bibliography button, and choose what citations you would like to pull in from your Zotero library. You can also highlight citations from Zotero and then drag and drop them and sort of plunk them in Word, and it will automatically format the citations based on the citation style you choose. So there are a bunch of different ways to make that happen. Google Docs is pretty much the same. You need to sync your Google account with your Zotero account, but you only need to do that once. And then afterwards, it's just synced. It has the same features and buttons. So the two most important ones being add edit citations and add edit bibliography. And it looks just like this. So Zotero is actually just already hanging out in Google Docs without you having to do anything. And then you just need to link your account, and it's all right there. Any questions on bibliographies?
Hey, Gail, this is Maura again.
Yeah.
So I have a Mac and I write my papers in Pages and then I export them to Word when I submit them. I create the citations using my Zotero app and then I paste them into my document. And pretty much every time I've submitted a paper, the professor will tell me that my citations are not all correct. So I'm doing the same thing every time, but and I always say APA format and everything.
Yeah.
But Zotero isn't always doing it correctly, or it might be some kind of issue where when I import the citation into Pages and then I export the document, something's getting messed up in the formatting. Have you heard of that happening? Or
Not specifically, but it would not shock me if something is happening in Pages, or that connection between Pages and Word.
okay,
Um,
but it's usually the citation format is accurate directly from Zotero. Other people
Yeah.
haven't told you they get that issue.
It's usually pretty accurate. The issue that I have seen is not in, it's not in how Zotero formats the citation, it's in the information that Zotero is working from within Zotero. So if it pulls a citation from a library database and it pulls an incomplete citation somehow, that's when you'll see it in the bibliography as being wrong or incomplete.
Okay.
But there's something up with the way it imported into Zotero originally.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And that does happen every now and then. It'll pull like just the title for no reason. And that's usually not a database problem. It's like a publisher problem, that the publisher didn't put the correct information into the database, and then like the whole chain sort of domino effects from there. But that's where that whole being able to edit within Zotero manually makes a difference. So if you see that something is up within your citation and it's just formatted incorrectly or something is weird, going back into Zotero and making sure that the information in Zotero is correct. And then that should fix anything in the Microsoft Word or Google Docs citation.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right, more dogs. Here they are running in a lake. Fig is now bigger than Cashew. She outweighs Cashew by about 25 pounds, 30 pounds. So she's a little chunky. I imagine in this picture that they're collaborating, but they're probably not collaborating. So sharing and collaborating within groups. So there are a couple different types of groups. You can make them within the Zotero web interface. There's a whole tab for groups. And then you can create one of these 3 different types. You can create as many groups as you'd like. So the 3 different types are open to everyone. And by open to everyone, I mean that's like completely public. If someone searches groups within Zotero, they can see your group. It's totally open. Invite only groups. So these are ones where you say like, this is for a class and I'm going to invite all my group mates, and only those people can see it. Those groups still appear by title within Zotero. So Zotero's like master list of groups, for anybody to be able to see that the group exists, but they cannot join it unless they have an invitation. And then lastly, private groups. So those are completely hidden from the like Zotero master list. They are invite only, so you can create them and then invite classmates or whomever. They're just not findable within Zotero's like website for anybody to see. Lastly, just a note about adding PDF files. So if you wanted to attach a PDF document to a citation within Zotero, you can do that manually. You can right click and click add attachment. Zotero will also look for open access PDFs. So if you right click, you can select find available PDF, and it will search the web to see if it can find the correct PDF. And then it will automatically attach it if it does find the available PDF. Zotero connector will also import PDFs when they're available open on the internet. So you can also drag and drop them from your desktop right into Zotero as well. So there are a bunch of different ways to put PDFs in here. Once you have a PDF in here and you open it from within Zotero and you annotate it in Adobe or whatever you're using, it will save that annotated version within Zotero. So if you have a group library and everybody is annotating within the same PDF, you will all be able to see each other's annotations and highlights and stuff like that. That's all I got. Any questions?
Do you have a good workaround for when the professor posts the paper on Blackboard, other than just going and finding the paper again through one of the databases and then downloading it into Zotero
So there's posting
so
the
that you can have
citation.
it? Pardon me?
They're posting like the citation information, or they're posting.
No, they post the PDF, but you want to be able to have that to cite it in a paper you write for them. Is there any other way to get the metadata into Zotero other than going and searching for the document again in one of the databases?
You should be able to download the PDF, I would say, to your desktop and then drag and drop it into Zotero. Should be faster.
Yeah, but it doesn't always get all the metadata that way.
If it's not getting all the metadata that way, then yeah, probably through the library's database is going to have more complete metadata.
Okay, thanks.
Fortunately, yeah. Any other, let me close this here. I'll stop sharing. All right. Any other questions? Let me pull up the chat. Oh, good. I'm glad that it gave you the option to download the Chrome extension. Difference on the software depending on if you're using a Mac or PC. The biggest difference is where sort of the icons are. So I'm on a Mac, and the sort of the buttons are in different places on a PC, but they're all like, all the buttons on the toolbar are in the toolbar. They just might be sort of like mixed around in different locations. That's the biggest difference though that I am aware of. The functionality is the same. It should have all the same options on a PC as it does on a Mac. So, other questions? Make sure that I got everything. I'll report back to Cashew and Fig that they are, they made their fall semester debut. All right. That's all I have. If anybody has specific questions that you want to troubleshoot or any sort of library related questions, I'm happy to answer anything else. But if you don't, you are free to continue on your day.
Thank you, Gail.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll stay on if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem.
Can I share my screen?
Yes, let me make sure I have that turned on. Let me stop
Like
the
it is. Yeah.
stop the recording.
Oh, good plan.